If you spent any time inside a house during the 1970s, you walked into a world that looks almost alien compared to modern homes. Shag carpet stretched wall to wall in colors that nature never intended. Wood paneling covered every vertical surface, as if the forest had moved indoors. Appliances came in shades of avocado and harvest gold, because apparently, those seemed like good ideas at the time. These houses had personality, sometimes too much of it. Stepping into one today feels like visiting a museum exhibit of questionable design choices. But for those of us who grew up in them, these features weren't strange. They were just home. The sunken living room made you feel like you had entered somewhere important. You would step down 1 or 2 stairs from the main floor into this recessed gathering space, and suddenly the room felt grander, more formal, more dramatic. Adults would sink into couches positioned around the conversation pit, while kids knew instinctively that this space was not meant for roughhousing. The design created natural separation without walls, a way of marking territory inside an open floor plan. Building codes and accessibility concerns eventually killed the sunken living room. And honestly, plenty of shins and ankles probably celebrated its demise. But there was something undeniably cool about descending into a room like you were making an entrance. Shag carpet deserves its own moment of recognition, because nothing else felt quite like walking barefoot through that deep, fuzzy wilderness. The pile rose inches off the floor in waves of orange, brown, green, or some combination that defied description. Running your toes through it felt almost therapeutic. Of course, keeping it clean was basically impossible. Crumbs disappeared into its depths, never to return. The vacuum cleaner struggled against it like fighting through a jungle. And if any liquid spilled into those fibers, you could pretty much consider it a permanent resident. But the softness, the warmth, the way it made every room feel somehow cozier. Shag carpet committed fully to its aesthetic vision. Practicality be damned. Wood paneling transformed basements, dens, family rooms, and sometimes entire houses into what felt like the inside of a cabin. Those thin sheets of fake wood grain covered the drywall everywhere, creating a dark, warm atmosphere that absorbed light and made every room feel smaller and more intimate. Families gathered in these paneled spaces to watch television, play board games, or just exist together. The panels themselves weren't expensive or particularly well made, but they defined an era so completely that seeing them now instantly transports you backward in time. Modern homeowners rip them out as fast as possible during renovations, painting everything white and bright. Something gets lost in that translation, even if the result photographs better. Appliances came in colors that would get a designer fired today. Refrigerators, stoves, dishwashers, and washing machines arrived in avocado green, harvest gold, and burnt orange, like someone had raided a particularly earthy crayon box. These weren't accent pieces. The entire kitchen matched in these muddy, warm tones. The look aimed for natural and organic, but it landed somewhere closer to cafeteria institutional. And yet families kept these appliances running for decades because they were built to last. Your grandmother's avocado refrigerator probably outlived 3 marriages and still kept food cold. The colors eventually became so associated with outdated style that stainless steel took over completely, turning kitchens into something resembling laboratory equipment. Telephone alcoves existed because phones stayed in one place, and that place needed to be convenient for the whole household. Builders carved small niches into hallway walls, just big enough for a phone to sit on a little shelf, with maybe a tiny seat or a stool nearby. The cord stretched only so far, which meant everyone in the house could hear your conversation, whether you wanted them to or not. Privacy meant stretching that spiral cord as far as it would reach, sometimes around corners or into closets, hoping the door would close enough to muffle your voice. Kids today with phones in their pockets cannot fathom a world where making a call meant standing in a specific spot, attached to the wall, while siblings eavesdropped from the next room. Popcorn ceilings spread across America like a textured plague. That bumpy, cottage cheese surface covered nearly every ceiling in every home built during this era. The application hid imperfections in the drywall and supposedly helped with sound absorption, but mostly it just collected dust and turned yellow near smokers. Scraping it off became a homeowner rite of passage in later decades, a messy and exhausting project that revealed how thoroughly this trend had dominated construction. Touching a popcorn ceiling felt vaguely unpleasant, like running your hand across something that should not exist. And yet builders sprayed millions of square feet of the stuff, confident they were making homes better. The wet bar turned basements and recreation rooms into adult gathering spaces. This little built-in station featured a small sink, cabinet storage, a mini refrigerator, and a mirror with decorative lighting. Parents mixed drinks here during parties while kids played elsewhere, and the wet bar signified a certain level of sophistication, a commitment to entertaining. The countertops were usually a laminate, meant to look like butcher block or marble, and the stools lined up in front never quite fit right. As drinking culture changed and home entertaining became less formal, wet bars fell out of fashion. Many still lurk in basements across the country, unused relics of a more cocktail-focused era. Beaded curtains hung in doorways as room dividers, and they usually divided almost nothing. Those long strings of wooden, plastic, or glass beads clicked and clattered every time someone walked through, announcing movement throughout the house. They provided the illusion of separation while actually concealing nothing at all. Kids loved running through them repeatedly just to hear the sound. Cats found them endlessly fascinating. The beads collected dust and occasionally broke, scattering across the floor like escaping marbles. But they looked groovy, and sometimes looking groovy mattered more than function. Console televisions dominated living rooms as enormous pieces of furniture that happened to contain screens. These wooden cabinets stretched several feet wide, stood waist-high, and weighed approximately as much as a small car. The television inside was almost secondary to the furniture surrounding it, with fake wood grain, maybe some speaker grills covered in fabric, and occasionally a built-in record player or 8-track deck. Families arranged their seating around these behemoths because moving them required professional assistance. The screens themselves were tiny compared to the cabinet size, curved glass bubbles that made everything look slightly warped at the edges. When these televisions finally died, disposing of them became a neighborhood event, requiring multiple strong adults and probably a truck. Linoleum flooring covered kitchens and bathrooms in patterns that ranged from ambitious to genuinely bewildering. Geometric shapes in multiple colors competed for attention against faux brick designs and abstract swirls that seemed designed during a fever dream. The material itself was durable and easy to clean, which explained its popularity in high-traffic areas. But the patterns, those wild, confident patterns, spoke to a decade unafraid of visual chaos. Ripping up old linoleum during renovations reveals layers of history, each uglier than the last, a geological record of changing tastes buried beneath your feet. Intercom systems promised space-age convenience, allowing communication between rooms without shouting. Small speaker boxes mounted in walls throughout the house connected to a central unit, usually in the kitchen. Parents could call children down for dinner. Visitors could announce themselves at the door. In theory, it seemed revolutionary. In practice, these systems crackled with static, picked up radio signals at random, and mostly got used for kids to make annoying noises at each other from different floors. The technology never quite worked as advertised, and eventually, everyone just went back to yelling. Carpeted bathrooms represented perhaps the most baffling trend of the entire decade. Someone decided that soft flooring around toilets and bathtubs seemed like a good idea, and somehow this notion spread widely enough to appear in homes across America. The carpet absorbed humidity, developed mysterious stains, and created conditions that would horrify any modern hygiene expert. And yet homeowners installed it deliberately, matching the carpet to the toilet seat cover and the fuzzy cover on the spare toilet paper roll. The commitment to coordinated softness extended even to spaces that desperately needed hard, cleanable surfaces. Macrame plant holders dangled from ceilings in nearly every room, elaborate knotted creations cradling ferns, spider plants, and wandering Jews in their woven embrace. These handmade decorations represented both craft project and interior design, something you could create yourself during long evenings and then display proudly. The plants themselves often struggled, either overwatered or forgotten, but the macrame holders endured. That rough rope texture and those intricate knot patterns defined 70s domesticity as clearly as any other single element. When people parody the decade, a macrame plant holder usually appears somewhere in the scene. Formal living rooms existed as spaces no one actually used. These front rooms, visible from the street through large windows, contained the nicest furniture in the house and remained essentially off-limits for daily life. Plastic covered the upholstery to preserve it for company that rarely came. Children learned quickly that playing here meant trouble. The room existed for appearances, for impressing visitors, for maintaining standards that nobody fully understood. Real living happened elsewhere, in family rooms and dens and kitchens, while the formal living room sat pristine and untouched like a museum exhibit in your own home. What do you remember most about houses from this era? Those details, the textures, the colors, the features we lived with daily, shaped our understanding of what home meant. Share your 70s house memories in the comments below, and subscribe if you enjoy these journeys back to times that feel both familiar and impossibly distant. The homes we grew up in never really leave us, even after everything inside them changes.